G'day and welcome back to World's Best Physio, where we are searching to find the best physio on planet Earth. And we're defining that as the physiotherapist that is able to provide the whole of humanity with world standard physiotherapy care at near zero cost on this planet and the next planet. And we know that this is an unrealistic thing for a human being to achieve, maybe. But we believe in the world of AI and internet and increasing connectivity. We believe it's entirely possible that diagnosis and treatment can happen at a world standard at very little cost. And that's what we're searching for. I had a conversation with a physiotherapist who treats kings and queens. And for some technical reasons, we were not able to record that video and publicize it. But I have copious notes here that I will be sharing during today's session. And what you can expect is we're going to talk about what does it take to be an excellent physiotherapist? How can a physiotherapist improve themselves? What habits can they adopt? And which directions is the physiotherapy profession currently traveling in? As always, please submit your comments, questions, and jokes. The conversation that we have around World's Best Physio is a critical ingredient in discovering what our true potential is as physiotherapists and how we can best serve the world that we live in. The physiotherapist that I had the privilege of speaking to is both a physiotherapist and an osteopath, and has had the privilege of treating not only high-level professional athletes, but your average Joe and Joanne, as well as some kings and queens. So very highly regarded, very skillful, and very generous in sharing time and thoughts that are going to be shared with you today. So what does it take to be a top-level physiotherapist? Now, I do want to highlight the fact that this person, yes, has treated some very famous people, some very well-known people, but the way that they actually came to treat these famous people is through recommendations from existing patients. So if you're a physiotherapist and you want the privilege of treating some famous or some well-known people, then I'd encourage you to really hone in on getting excellent outcomes for the people right in front of you today. This is your training ground. This is where you improve. This is where you demonstrate your skill set. Your best referrers are the people that you're treating today, and the people most qualified to recommend you are the people that you're treating today. So really encouraging every physiotherapist to focus on the people that are in front of you right now. We talked about availability, the importance of actually having capacity in your diary to take on new clients. If you are fully booked, you could be the best physiotherapist in the world, but if no one can see you because you're booked out for 3 or 4 weeks, well, then what's the point? People are in pain today and they need to be helped today. So always having capacity to treat someone when they need treatment is essential. We talked about finding the mechanical causes, finding these structures within a person's body that are driving someone's symptoms, and how motivating it can be to solve the puzzle. And this is something that really distinguishes an excellent physiotherapist from a good physiotherapist. A good physiotherapist can help the average person or maybe the occasional professional athlete with run-of-the-mill problems. But the excellent physiotherapist gets inspired and excited by the possibility of cracking a complex case. The anticipation of going on a hunt like a detective would and figuring out, okay, what is the little lever that we need to pull to finally get this person heading in the right direction. So I'd encourage each of you, if you want to be an excellent physiotherapist, something that I aspire to become one day, is just to get really enthusiastic and get really curious whenever someone comes in with a complex case. And that starts off very much from not just waiting for the complex cases, but to to consider every case to be complex in the sense that, okay, someone might come in with a run-of-the-mill problem. You've seen this diagnosis a million times before, but you challenge yourself to, all right, can I treat this in 5 minutes? Can I diagnose and give advice that helps this person within 5 minutes? And I might continue chatting with them and treating them over a much longer period of time. But can I be really powerful, really effective in a short amount of time? Or can I be really specific in which treatment I use such that the very first thing that I do gets rid of all of their symptoms or gets rid of the vast majority of their symptoms? So to be the person who solves the puzzle, there was a reflection on the direction of the physiotherapy profession. We talked about how conferences used to focus on the components. They used to focus on, well, humans are built with bones and ligaments and this and that and whatnot. And nowadays we're focusing more on the person as a whole and the complexity and sophistication of the person, and very much seeing that this is a person, a therapist, chatting to a person, the patient, as opposed to a mechanic that is addressing physical components within a machine. We also talked about short and long-term benefits and risks with surgery versus rehabilitation. For example, we know that in the space of femoroacetabular impingement, or FAI, that there's a thought at the moment that some early surgery to, for example, resect a cam lesion or to resect a pincer lesion to then enable greater mobility and greater function earlier in life could then reduce the need for a hip replacement later on, or could reduce the risk of developing what's called wave sign, which is where the cartilage over the top of the femoral head is detached from the femur itself. It's very difficult to do research on this because it would require that we have large population groups where we can actually then have a decent chunk of people go for surgery and a decent chunk not go for surgery, and then track how many people get hip replacements. So that's going to take some time. But there's an early thought that early detection of FAI and early intervention from a keyhole surgery could produce better outcomes in the long run. Happy to debate this if people have got opinions on this. It's not something I'm claiming as fact, but something I'm claiming as theory that's being tested in the real world at the moment. We also talked about how important ego is to be, as practitioners, to feel confident in treating and to get a real kick out of seeing people get better. And of course, we would have to sit back and humbly recognize that we stand on the shoulders of physiotherapy giants, fantastic physiotherapists that have passed on their knowledge and passed on their clinical experience to us today, so that we can know the things that we know today and that we can further contribute towards that knowledge. So it's not to say that we've, in our current generation, figured it all out ourselves, but to be confident that we can have an impact and that we can also celebrate the fact that people get better. So to take energy out of that. There was also discussion about how frustration can motivate us. For example, when a client comes in and they describe that they've got, and this was a real case that I discussed with this physiotherapist. A client was a healthy 24-year-old in good shape and had bilateral, that is right and left-sided, pain every time they were weight-bearing on their feet, every time they stood up, every time they walked, every time they sat down with their feet on the floor. They had pain on their feet, and this went on for a very long time. And they'd seen a number of practitioners and it hadn't gotten better. And they were even, some practitioners were even talking about doing surgery on her feet to change the foot posture. And then, of course, to do the surgery on the other foot because it was a bilateral foot pain. And no one up until this point had looked centrally to investigate the possibility that this bilateral pain was actually coming from a central location, and it was. The physiotherapist that I interviewed for World's Best Physio manipulated the lumbar spine, and the pain went away for the first time in 5 years. For the first time in 5 years, this young woman could stand, could walk without this debilitating pain that she had been experiencing. So to be motivated not only by ego, by the joy of getting people better, but also to be frustrated and to fight against bad practice. It's bad practice to not look at a central location when people have bilateral symptoms. It's also bad practice to not diagnose someone correctly the first time we see them. And so when you meet someone who's gone through the ringer, they've seen different practitioners and they haven't got a solution, to be frustrated by that and to also look at our profession as something that also needs to be assessed and treated, and to contribute knowledge where we can. So these are the insights that I've gathered from chatting with an excellent physiotherapist. We are continuing to search for the world's best physio, because when I asked the necessary questions of, do you consider yourself to be the world's best physio, the answer was no. And the reason for that is that the moment a physiotherapist stands up and says, I can treat everything, or I know how to fix everything, that is the same moment, in the words of this physiotherapist I interviewed, that is the same moment that they become the world's worst physiotherapist, because they blind themselves to their ignorance. They blind themselves to what they don't know, and they also lose the benefit of our collaboration. All of us together contributing knowledge is going to be far better for the whole world, but also for the development of each of us individually. So if you have some questions, comments, or jokes about this, if you know who the world's best physiotherapist is, or if you believe that a chat AI has already reached it, then let us know. I did do a check of a chat AI recently. A client came to me citing that he received a diagnosis from ChatGPT. And the diagnosis I agree with, but the treatment was way off. There was 4 or 5 exercises that ChatGPT prescribed to this gentleman to fix his pain. And just as many of the exercises made his pain worse as made his pain better. So it seems like there's very much a shotgun approach with ChatGPT in the prescription of treatments at this point in time. My opinion is that in the majority of cases, ChatGPT gets the diagnosis right, but the treatment, the prescription of appropriate exercises to relieve pain, and the prescription of remedies or solutions or advice to reduce symptoms is not quite where it needs to be yet. It seems like exercises prescribed by ChatGPT are really good for building up strength, but not for relieving pain. So that's today's installment of World's Best Physio. Thank you very much for joining us on our journey. And yeah, that's it.